This is a place in which I truly desire to inspire success in every lady's life while building the faith. And how I'm doing that right now is through the Psalms 23 series. So if you are on this journey with me, welcome back. I'm excited for today's lesson on Psalms 23:3. If you're here for the first time, then I am glad to have you. Go ahead and check the link below, or right here, I'll put it in the corner. That is the complete series up to this point. So you can even catch up with the introductory video and everything that we're doing in this series. So today we're going to zoom in on Psalms 23 verse 3, and we're going to talk about how to get through situations in life when we feel cast down. So I'm excited about this, and I know that it's going to be a blessing, and I know that God is going to speak a word in your life. So right now, pause the video, go ahead and read Psalms 23 verses 1 through 6 in their entirety, then zoom in on Psalms 23 verse 3. Psalms 23 verse 3 says, "He restores my soul, and he guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake." Now, the first thing that I love to do when I'm studying any scripture is I like to highlight the words that jumped out to me. The two words that jumped out to me were restore and guides me. And so I highlighted those. Then I also took the word restore and I looked it up on Google, went ahead and took my handy dandy phone. I Googled the word restored and I wrote that word down in all of the different shapes, ways, and forms that it came out. And so I noticed that it said revitalizes, inspires, stimulates, refuels, re-energizes, starts over, reinvents, renews, refreshes, and my list goes on. So I have all of those in my area that I'm journaling on this week. So as I'm looking at the verse, he refreshes, he restores, he helps me start over, he renews, he re-energizes, he gives me a do-over. I say it back to myself using those words. Well, the second part of the verse says, he restores my soul. He renews, he restores, he revitalizes my soul. I want to explain to you a little bit about the soul. I want to give you a picture that was an absolute game changer in my life. So I'm hoping that will just increase the wisdom, which will expand your vision for this verse, and it'll give you a different backdrop when you're thinking about the word soul. When I was in my Old Testament survey class in college at Liberty University, I remember one of my professors putting this visual up on the board, and I loved it. So if you have a piece of paper right now, I'm encouraging you to grab a piece of paper and kind of draw this out with me. What does the soul mean? And what is David specifically helping us understand in this verse when he says, he restores my soul. He helps me start over. He gives me a restart with my soul. Let's take a look at this illustration.
Okay, so the first thing you want to do is draw a circle. On the outside of the circle, label it body, and then around both sides of the circle, put sight, sound, and smell, taste, and touch. In the inside of the circle, write the word soul, S-O-U-L, and divide it like I did above. Then at the top of the circle, make a door and label it spirit. At the bottom, make a door and label it flesh. Lastly, in the middle, go ahead and list mind, will, and emotion, and put a heart around the word will, because ultimately we want God's will in our lives.
So after looking at this illustration, you understand that humanity stands at the door of two decisions in life. Are we going to respond through our flesh, or are we going to respond through our spirit? Whatever door we decide to walk through is going to determine really how we respond with our emotions and where our mind is going, which ultimately determines what our will is going to look like. And so it is free will. God gives us the ability every day, every second to pick what door we're operating through. So it is so important that he is constantly renewing and restoring our soul, because our soul is connected to our mind, will, and emotions. So that really helps me understand when my soul is in the care of the shepherd. It is extremely important, because you know that we will grow weary in this life. There are so many trials and troubles with everyday life. Now, sometimes they're not too troubling, but they're irritating. Sometimes something just comes up in our day and we just become frustrated. Or there could be something that is really huge that just kind of ended up in the middle of your pathway, and you are now cast down. You are in a place where you just have lost all circulation to your soul. And I want to give you this visual right now because I think it's so important to understand, again, what happens when a sheep is cast down. It is literally flat on its back, and all of his limbs are up in the air. And many times what causes a sheep to get to this point in life is when his wool becomes so matted and weighed down with mud and not cared for properly, he becomes weighed down top heavy and he flips over on his back. Well, I know where my mind is going. There are things in life that make me get weighed down and feel top heavy to the point where I'm just going to flip over on my back and say, I give up with all limbs in the air. So we're kind of like this sheep in a cast down position. The danger when a sheep gets into a position like this is when all of the extremities are up in the air, the limbs are up in the air, the circulation begins to become cut off. There is no flow, no proper circulation, and gases begin to create. A serious critical state for a sheep, because he can die when those gases build up and the circulation is cut off. And so I love the verse in Matthew chapter 18 that says, the shepherd will leave all 99 to find the one. To find the one sheep that is cast down. Well, God looks upon us the same way. He is going to stop everything to find us. He will work through people and circumstances in our life to bring us back to his will, to help our mind and emotions line back up with his will, which will ultimately lead us in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So when we're in that place where we're feeling cast down, the Lord wants to restore our soul. He wants to return life back to us. But how does that work? Remember when I said Psalms 23 verse 2, he makes me lie down in green pastures and he leads me beside still waters? I said that verse really is coupled with Psalms 23 verse 3, where it says, he restores my soul. What I mean by that is we've got to get to the place where we're in relationship and we allow him to massage our limbs so the circulation comes back and he can lift us back up. So he can, just like a shepherd will take a sheep and massage his limbs, get the circulation going, and put that sheep back on his feet. So he will guide that sheep and put him back on the right path. And he will bring him back with the sheepfold. Well, the same with us. When we become distant, when we become cast down because of whatever's going on in life, the Lord is looking for us. He is going to come after us to massage us. He wants to massage our soul and help us understand how to deal with the emotions, how to deal with what's troubling our mind, and how to give us a sound mind. And so he does that by his word. So when he makes us lay down in green pastures, we're in a place where we're being fed the bread of life. He's standing next to us, feeding us with the word that we need for the season that we're in. That's why he keeps moving us along this journey. Remember the visual that I always give, that the Lord is moving us along the right paths so he can feed us in the right pasture. He knows what word to give us for the season that we're in. And if we're cast down and confused, he knows just the word to bring. Let me give you a great example. I was just talking to my daughter the other day. It was Sunday. We just left a church service, and boy, did God give us a word on time. Before the circumstances that we were going to be aware of, God already had a word planted. My daughter had a close friend of hers, or an acquaintance at school, who was driving on the way to a faith service, And the family noticed that somebody was needing help on the side of the road. So the car pulled over on the side of the road to help the lady, and the son got out of the car to help, and a boy that was driving swerved on the side of the road and ended up hitting the boy. And the mother watched all of this. Can you imagine how cast down she felt after this? This boy was an all-star track runner. I'm sure already had scholarships. When the car hit the individual, it broke both legs and immediately amputated the foot of the boy and crushed his pelvis. At this point, I cannot imagine, as a mother, watching all of that happen. I know that my emotions would be cut off. Everything in my mind would be extremely numb, and I know the toxins would be flowing in because my daughter said, "Mom, why?" They were on their way to a faith event. Why would God allow something like that to happen? It's not why, it's what. What is God doing? I don't know if you're watching this and you're in a cast down situation because something traumatic has happened in your life. And if you are feeling like you are still on your back, I'm encouraging you to allow God to come in there and massage those limbs and get those toxins out. I was thinking about this too. I don't know if you like going to get massages, but I'll often slip in to see my massage therapist, or when we're away in Colorado because my daughter snowboards, there's a place that I go. When I'm there, I often ask for the deep tissue massage. Now, I already have to know that my next day involves nothing because I'm sore and I sometimes don't feel too good after a deep tissue massage. Well, a deep tissue massage, that therapist is getting in there on your limbs and pushing and pushing and pushing those toxins out of your body. That's why they say after massages to drink a ton of water and flush those toxins out. Well, I was thinking about when a shepherd goes and begins to massage the limbs on that sheep to get the circulation back. That's exactly what God's doing when it says He restores my soul. He wants to get in there with His word and flush the toxins out, because whatever you're going through, I am sure there is a million emotions and a million things that are going through your mind, and 99% of them are toxic. And we know that because we all cross those roads. I would challenge you ladies to write down on a piece of paper how many toxins fly through your mind at that moment in time. How toxic are you? And that's just because we are in our flesh. And remember that illustration. We've got to get to a place that when the Lord is massaging us and He's bringing a word for us in our pasture, He's bringing the bread of life, He's going to allow to quiet our soul to a place that He renews our mind and our will and our emotions. You know, when you come to a fork in the road, if we're not led by the Spirit, we tend to veer off to the left a little bit. So when He begins to lead and guide us, He guides us in the right path for His name's sake. Book, you'll notice the shepherds look at Psalms 23. A sheep is stupid, and many times when it's just leading itself, it'll walk right off of a cliff. The same for us. When we're confused in life situations, when we're cast down, many times we'll make a decision that leaves us hanging on a cliff or walking right off of a cliff, because we tend to respond on emotion. And so we have to get to that place where we're allowing God to guide us. He gives us His word. He refuels us, revitalizes us, wants us to go down the right path for His glory and for His name's sake. Let me give you one final illustration. I think this matches up with the second part of the verse great. My youngest daughter made an unwise decision recently. And that was a girlfriend of hers picked her up. Neither one of them had a driver's license. So they ended up, the girlfriend picked her up just to get her back to her house. But it wasn't a long drive, so both girls thought, well, it's not a bad decision. We're just, I'm just going up the road. Well, the bad decision was when I told my daughter, and both parents found out about this, and we were both upset. And I love that the other family are Christians, because we dealt with this situation in a way of, what would God do? What would God say? How is this a right way of responding? How is this a wrong way of responding? So I asked her some questions. I'm like, what's the law in Michigan here? What is it? And she goes, Mom, we have to have a driver's license. I know. And I'm like, if you knew that, then why did you get in the car? Well, it was only up the road. It was just down the street, Mom. And it's not a big deal. We were safe. We know how to do it. She knew what she was doing. Okay, so I stopped again and I said, but what does the law say? And she said, that you are not to drive until you have a license, that you have to be 16. You have teenagers. I'm sure your teenagers have made stupid decisions, again, like a sheep. And so I said to her, I go, okay, what if you would have got caught? And she said, I probably wouldn't be able to go to driver's ed or even have the ability to get my driver's license. I said, yes, you would have lost that privilege for a while. There would have been consequences. And what if you would have gotten hurt? Oh, that wouldn't have been good, she said. I said, because you lacked some wisdom, because neither one of you have had driver's ed yet, you could have made a wrong decision. And she said, you're right. So both of them sweetly knew that they made a wrong decision, and they made that decision out of their flesh. Maybe the enemy tempted them and said, it's not that bad. It's only up the road a little bit. Well, the same thing happens to all of us. And I love that I was able to tell my daughter, God can help you start over. He restores our soul. He restores our mind. He restores our emotions. And he teaches us to do better. And so we have to learn from this situation. Yes, there were consequences here at home for her making that decision. And yes, God our Father, he disciplines us when we go in the opposite direction that he's leading us. So I told my daughter, God gives us his law and his words to lead us in the best path, the best life. He truly wants to bring blessings in your life. He wants to guide you to the path of righteousness for his name's sake. But it's a two-way situation. We have to be involved with him. So that's why this study, again, is set up to slowly learn, slowly chew on his word, slowly lay down in green pastures and learn to listen to his voice. Hey, you know what I discovered about myself? I can actually memorize scripture. I have always struggled with memorizing scripture. What I've noticed with this study myself is that I am sticking with one verse for 2 weeks, and I'm constantly saying that verse over and over and repeating the questions again that you have, and I'm looking at them for either a week straight or 2 weeks straight. And I'm really beginning to learn to recognize the shepherd's voice. He's beginning to lead me down the right paths. I'm recognizing his voice. So I'm encouraging you too to also be memorizing those scriptures as you're studying verse by verse. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me to the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Thanks so much for joining me with this series. I'm so excited to interact with you. Please leave a comment below. Let me know how this is helping you. Tell me the one sentence that might have jumped out in today's lesson. I'm encouraged by you also. Please also don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and thank you for subscribing to my channel. I'm excited for God to use me in so many ways to inspire success and build the faith. Have an awesome week, and I pray that you can recognize the shepherd massaging your limbs in certain areas so your mind has rest, your will and your emotions feel at peace. I'm excited to see you again in Psalms 23, verse 4.